rule by divine right. And yet our realm is far from holy.
The armies we command paint red the map.
Why fight when hearts and minds are easily swayed?
The realm is ours only when our enemies lie dead.
Patience and time will beget our gain.
We are stability.
Dignity.
And authority.
We bear the weight of pain.
End of defeat.
Greatness shall ever define us.
And we shall never
Be forgotten.
Forgotten.
So,
How will you
Shape
Your realm,
How will
will
you
make history.
make
history.
make history.
So there we have it. The next historical Total War has been revealed, and it's Total War Medieval 3. Hey guys, Lionheart here, and today I thought I'd finally give you guys my thoughts and impressions on everything that CA announced in their 25th anniversary showcase of Total War last week. I did a live stream when the showcase was going out, did a live reaction to it, and I kind of considered uploading that, but it was mainly me going, wow, or that looks cool, or didn't expect that. So I thought it'd be better to wait until kind of after the weekend. I could kind of have a think about everything that they announced, also go through their blog post, which is what we've got up on screen today. So we're just going to kind of go through everything that's in that. And as we go through it, I'm going to share my thoughts and impressions, but I would really love to hear from you guys about everything that you saw in the showcase and your thoughts and impressions as well. Probably going to make some follow-on content from this, especially because there is still one more thing for CA to announce, which is now happening at the Game Awards on the 11th of December. So I'll actually be hosting a kind of live Q&A with my community over on my Discord. We'll probably stream it at the same time. So it'll probably be on my Twitch channel as well. But feel free to join the Discord. It's in the description. But yeah, we're going to do that on December 12th from 2 p.m. And I'm going to go over whatever they announce at the Game Awards. I mean, rumors and speculations, and something that was obviously missing from their anniversary showcase. I think it's going to be Total War 40k. It's something that's been long rumored within the community, and that's what I'd place my bet on. But let me know your thoughts. What do you think they're going to announce at the Game Awards? So let's dive on in. Medieval 3. I have to preface this, I am trying to kind of hold back the excitement a little bit because it's still super early days of this. I can't help though by being excited that Medieval 3 is the next historical title that CA are working on. Now, obviously, they've got, big shoes to fill in terms of the legacy of Medieval 2, but Medieval 3 is one of the two options that I felt would be a strong enough title for them to truly, properly return to historical titles if they're going to give it a fair whack. And I think from what they sort of outlined in the anniversary showcase, that's what they're attempting to do. Whether they'll be able to pull it off, that's the big thing to wait for, and we're going to have to wait and see on that. But CA themselves essentially said they plan this to be the rebirth of historical Total War, which is massive pressure on themselves, on their devs to really deliver with this. But I kind of hope that with that phrasing that they're going for, they kind of know how important it is that this has to hit right. And it has to be a proper historical Total War, not a hybrid, your romanticized retelling of history. We don't want Richard the Lionheart doing somersault leaps, killing thousands upon thousands. We want this grounded as a proper kind of hardcore classic return to historical Total War. But I don't just want to go back to everything that we had in Medieval 2. I want to go back and grab all that stuff from Medieval 2 and also bring it into kind of present day Total War with updated graphics, more intricacies in lots of different systems, unique campaign mechanics that really add flavor and proper depth, not just artificial depth. I want them to see, a lot of people I've seen in the community are already saying, if they just merged Crusader Kings 3 and Medieval 2, wouldn't that be amazing as Medieval 3? And I think there's a lot of things they certainly could take from Crusader Kings, having more intricacies in terms of intrigue in court politics. I mean, they broadly sort of touched upon they don't want this to just be about, you know, fighting and waging total war. They want it to have that depth of managing and ruling a kingdom, a dynasty. So that does sound a little bit more kind of grand strategy, a little bit more Crusader Kings in spirit. In terms of how they actually implement all those features, again, we know basically nothing other than it's Total War Medieval 3. There was another blog post, I think, as well, where they outline some of their aspirations of what they want to try and achieve, and those sound really positive. They really want to make it seemingly a very dynamic experience. It's still a sandbox, but it's your true opportunity to change history and to carve your own path. And in order to make that a successful historical, they've got to give us more tools, I think, than they've ever done before. You know, I think this needs to be the most feature-rich, the most in-depth mechanics of a historical title that we've ever seen. In fact, of any Total War title, this has to be massive. Now, it doesn't mean adding in depth for the sake of adding depth, but I think they've got to add in important systems that all integrate and talk to one another. I felt that with Total War Pharaoh, it seemed initially like there was a lot more campaign flavor and a lot more campaign depth, but often those were just shallow one menu deep systems, or like the court politics system there was actually pretty straightforward and basic. And in the end, actually, there was only one that you wanted to go for every single turn, which was essentially to get way more gold. So I hope that they add in more layers to a lot of these systems. I hope we get an overhaul to diplomacy. I mean, we had strides forward in diplomacy with Total War 3 Kingdoms, and then we've never seen any of those kind of complex defensive pacts or alliances that we saw 3 Kingdoms bring in. And I kind of hope that that would be the new benchmark for diplomacy going forward from 3 Kingdoms, and it's never, you know, really reappeared in terms of more diplomatic options. So I really hope that with Medieval 3, it is, you know, there's plenty of depth there. And I mean, by all means, stagger it, make it so that new players can kind of just go a couple of levels deep. But for veteran players that really want a true strategy experience and added depth, there's many more tiers that you can go down and interact with different levels. It doesn't need to suddenly turn into a Crusader Kings 3 clone by any means. That's not what I want. Total War can do its own thing. But I certainly think that there should be areas where they look to make your economy and population has to come back. It has to be. I mean, they talked about broadly how they wanted to recreate accurate armies of the time, which, okay, starting across the medieval period, you have this shift from levy fjord-based forces where you're literally taking the peasants from the field, which is going to have an instant economic impact. Similar, I would have thought, to kind of the peasant economy system for Bretonia. The more of their peasant troops you recruit, the less your economy grows and the less income you get, because you're literally taking farmhands and workers from the fields to fight for you. But so a more intricate system like that with population really being impactful would be great to see. And obviously across the medieval period, you have the shift from the levy forces to professional soldiery. So it'd be really cool to see them give you those options and see that change over time. That'd be something that'd be really accurate and really interesting to see them bring to life. So yeah, they've started mentioning things like that. And I hope that's the level of depth that we get, where impact matters. But with, you know, recruiting troops isn't just, oh, I want that unit, let's start mustering the levies or something like that. It's, you've got to think, can I afford to do this? What time of year is it? Is it harvest time? That would be the worst time to raise my armies right now. But am I under attack? I've got to make the choice between food on the table now and stores and provisions, or will I even have a kingdom left if I don't raise my levies right now? Those are the types of choices that I want to be able to make, I guess, as a veteran player now. Though that's the depth that I want. I want my choices to really matter and impact across every single system where it makes sense for them to impact. So that's the level of depth I'm talking about. Now, some people might say they don't want that level of depth. Totally fair and fine. But that's, I honestly think, what the series needs to do historically going forward. It needs to have more depth, more meaningful, interactable mechanics. And again, not just, you know, surface level depth. It's not just about clicking on a portrait and being rewarded with an instant, like, oh yeah, I've got some gold. No, you need to be able to manage things. But I guess they've got to develop that in a way where players can manage that to certain degrees depending on their familiarity with the series. Like, new players are probably going to feel overwhelmed if there's suddenly menu after menu and, it, you know, layer after layer of depth. So they've got to find that balance, which I appreciate. But obviously, I want the building system overhauled and added to a much greater depth, either kind of going back to that classic Medieval 2 experience of no restrictions on what you could build, or if there are still building slots, give us so many more options, or give us ways to keep adding more slots. Like, see the the sprawl of the kind of large centers within your realm. I mean, it'd be really cool to even be able to, I don't know, found some new castles, permanent places and things like that. I guess it depends on the start date, because that's the one thing they have said. They haven't stated what their start date is. They haven't locked that in yet. I mean, I kind of feel starting at a similar start date to where they had with Medieval 2, which was, it was after 1066, because you had that as the tutorial battle. Was it like 1080? Was it like 1067 even? Just like literally the year after? I know William the Conqueror was still alive as England. It's escaping me now. I want to say like 1080, but maybe that's a bit further along. But I think that's not a bad one. You know, right at the end of the 11th century, I think is a good place to start, and then go all the way up to the sort of mid to late 1400s is probably a reasonable point to take the base game. But let me know your thoughts. When do you want it set? What features for you are a must-have for Medieval 3? Anyways, yeah, so I wanted to kind of get all my thoughts broadly just out initially. Let's go through what they've said in the blog post, and I'll kind of share thoughts as we go through. And there's probably plenty of things that I'm missing, so feel free to let me know any comments or questions that you're like, hey, Lionheart, what do you think about this? Or you didn't talk about this. Let me know. Either I'll answer in the comments or I'll make a follow-up. As I said, I'm going to be doing this event over on my Discord on December 12th, where we're going to be talking about whatever is announced at the Game Awards, but also all of this stuff as well. So maybe I'll pick out some things that I've missed for then as well. Obviously, we've been waiting a long time to say this. Total War is going back to the medieval era. Huzzah! I should say, actually, one final thing. I said earlier there were two titles that I thought they could properly return to historical Total Wars with, and it was Medieval 3 for me, or Empire 2. I think we will still get an Empire 2. I think that's still very likely. I think Medieval 3 is probably, that solid kind of firm foundation from which they want to go forward for the next potentially 10, 15, maybe even 25 years again. Who knows? But yeah, I think an Empire 2 is quite likely at some point. I mean, what other historical titles would you like to see in the next 10, 15 years from Creative Assembly? Let me know. We're in the opening stages of Total War Medieval 3's development, pre-production to be precise, meaning we're still years from release. So that was a big thing. People, with the announce, I think a lot of people, because we haven't had a proper historical Total War for such a long time, a lot of people were kind of hoping that the announce would come alongside saying, launching next year, or, 2027 type sort of thing. This sounds like, I'd say 2028, but even that almost feels too early. I think it's probably going to be closer to 2029, maybe even 2030, which seems crazy to think that far off right now. But pre-production, until we see more, I think Creative Assembly did say on one of their streams at the end of the last week that they are hoping to actually do a Medieval 3 stream, focus stream, this week at some point. I don't know if that's still going ahead or what the plan is. Maybe it won't be until the new year. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, until we actually hear more about how far into pre-production they are, this does almost seem, and a lot of people have sort of gone, did they just decide to make this last week and then they threw it into the announce? That's what a lot of people feel is. And I think there's some other stuff that they announced that perhaps potentially explains the announce of this at this point, and I'll kind of come back to that when we get to that. It'll make sense as we go through this blog post. But ultimately, if I could have Medieval 3 tomorrow, I'd say yes, give it to me. But if it's in pre-production, I don't want it until it's ready. Keep it in the oven until it's ready. Hopefully that's not 5 years away. Hopefully that's sooner rather than later. But ultimately, with this being so much pressure and them, hyping up right from the start themselves, saying that this is the rebirth of historical Total War, they have got to get this right. Otherwise, I don't see them not trying another historical after this, but I think for a good chunk of the historical community, this would be too much if Medieval 3 is not reasonable and a hit at launch, which it absolutely needs to be. Otherwise, I think so many people are going to turn away from the series and just not come back. A lot of people have already done that. But yeah, if they are framing this as the rebirth of historical Total War, boy, oh boy, do they have to get it right from day one. So that, there's a huge amount of pressure and weight for them to get right. And in a way, I'm kind of glad that maybe they've put that pressure on themselves, because maybe that finally they hopefully should see the value and importance of the kind of the neglect that the historical community has felt all these years. So yeah, this next one has to count. It has to hit. It has to be a proper historical. So they say this isn't just another game for us. It's the realization of something we've dreamed of for almost 20 years. The medieval series is one of the most cherished chapters in Total War's history. I mean, for me, I started properly with Total War with Medieval 1. I had already played Shogun 1 when it first came out, but I didn't really gel with the series until Medieval 1. I still fondly remember dragging the tiles and the markers over the map to add titles to your characters. They were little scrolls on the map in Medieval 1. And I also remember taking the manual and the massive fold-out building tree poster that you got in the box on holiday with me, like a day or two after I'd got Medieval 1, because I was like, I just want to plan out my strategy while I'm away, and I can plan it out on the campaign map, and I can look at the building trees, and I can read the manual cover to cover so many times. Honestly, I would love a physical edition that does that again. That'd be great. But yeah, so for me, Medieval is, I played loads of Rome 1, but Medieval 2, Medieval 1 and Medieval 2 were really the ones that just, and I mean, for me, in fact, they really did influence my life, because it was playing these games, Medieval 1, Medieval 2, that actually inspired me to go to university and study medieval history in the end. So thanks Medieval 2 and Medieval 1. I don't regret that at all. I loved studying and learning more about it, and it was true inspiration from these historical games. So creating a true successor is a goal we've held close for a long time. Now we finally have the chance to make it happen. Yeah, please do, though, make it a true successor. The next chapter will be both a tribute to its predecessors and a bold revolution for what historical Total War can be. As long as it's a revolution sticking to the core, kind of pillars of what a historical Total War should be, and not some hybrid or history fantasy, then that's fine. The series does need to change. Broadly, it's been the same copy and paste into a different era formula, forever, basically. I mean, you could argue, you had that kind of first stage up to and including Medieval 2. Then you've had the second stage from Empire onwards. But broadly, it's been the same stuff with a different skin on it. And that's not necessarily always a bad thing. It's enabled us to explore new settings, new periods, and new warfare and new mechanics. That's totally fine. But I think now they have to make bigger, bolder jumps as well. The team's vision is clear: to create the ultimate medieval strategy sandbox featuring our signature blend of grand strategy and tactical real-time battles. I mean, this is honestly an issue I have. I don't consider Total War, I never have considered Total War a grand strategy, mainly because I don't think it has the depth of a grand strategy. You just say on the campaign side, it's just been a strategy game. I think some have perhaps gone closer to grand strategy than others. But I mean, in a way, the thing is, I see grand strategy as exclusively pretty much Paradox titles, Crusader Kings, Europa Universalis, all of those titles that are intricate and are in depth with their campaign side mechanics. That's what I see as grand strategy. So I hope it's not just your signature blend of grand strategy, Creative Assembly, because I don't actually really see it as hitting those markers or those benchmarks that I have for grand strategy. I mean, maybe for you guys, maybe you do consider Total War grand strategy. But I hope it's your signature blend and then heaps more, please. Tactical real-time battles. But yeah, I mean, I'm not expecting necessarily crazy things happening to battle side. I'm expecting flashier graphics, hopefully bigger armies. I would love to see the return from Medieval 2 of visually changing unit models when you upgrade their armors, when you go through bronze, silver, and gold. And it can be as simple as that, bronze, silver, and gold, I think, for the different tiers of armorer. Where if you took peasants, they'd start off in just their peasant garb. Bronze, they'd have like a little leather jerkin on. And if you put them on silver, they'd have a little bit of chainmail over that as well. And then if you had them all the way on gold, some of them might have little bits of plate armor on. And that was great. Now, I appreciate you've then got to model every single unit in the game 3 times with different armor. But I think it's worth it for the immersion of what you're trying to achieve with the historical title. Seeing them have upgraded armor and things like that, I would love to see that. I really want to see that back again. It's a very small visual only feature, because obviously the stats are still there, even if they don't change it up in more recent Total Wars that still have the armor system and mechanics of 3 tiers to it, but they don't visually change. And I think that visual change is massive and really enjoyable. I want to create a game that lets you shape your realms, rewrite history, and immerse yourself in the drama and intrigue of the Middle Ages like never before. So again, that pointing on drama, intrigue, Middle Age. That's the kind of Crusader Kings-esque features that I'm getting vibes of from this, and that's what I hope to kind of see. It doesn't, as I said, it doesn't need to be fully as intricate as Crusader Kings 3 because that doesn't have any real-time battle. So there's got to be a balance between, obviously what they're creating, campaign and battle in there. But it would be great to have dynamic events, ways to interact with your court, make your court really matter, make your economy really matter, make diplomatic policy and trade really matter. But also it needs to not only matter for the player, the AI needs to be using it too, because then it's satisfying when you pull off an intrigue or diplomatic action, because the AI has been trying to, you're fencing back and forth essentially, and the AI has been trying to do the same thing to you with these other mechanics, not just waging war with you. Somebody might be asking why we revealed this early. The answer is quite simple. We want to want you to come on this development journey with us. I mean, also, I think a lot, they're probably not going to come out with it, but we also want to make it clear that we haven't forgot about historical Total War fans. I mean, yeah, they had to announce another historical now because otherwise people would just be like, so you're not doing historicals anymore? I mean, people have been asking that for years anyway. Next historical when? They had to announce something, so yeah, probably wasn't ready to show any kind of real gameplay or anything. They were like, we can do a nice little cinematic trailer, which I thought actually was quite a cool trailer, to be honest. You've seen it at the start of this video. But yeah, I think, sure, you want to take us on the journey. That's nice. But I think being completely honest, you knew you had to announce a historical Total War right now, even if it's years and years off, because otherwise the fan base is ready to give up, and a lot already have. So they want to come on that development journey. I mean, that's fine. It says at certain points throughout the year, we'll share behind the scenes insights and give you a closer look at how the game is taking shape so you can see it evolve with us and in some case influence its direction. I don't have an issue with that. I think I would love to see, almost Paradox level dev diaries. As long as their design direction is clear, I think that'll be really cool to see the story that it goes on, and hopefully we can see how they're building it in certain ways, and hopefully if they start adding in stuff that just looks too hybrid-y or just doesn't look like the right fit for historical, or, they're not talking about the inclusion of population or certain depth in some places, hopefully we can make our voices clear from an early enough stage in development that can actually bring about some tangible change there. So we won't watch the announced trailer again, but that's all for Medieval 3. So I mean, place your bets in the comments. When do you think this is coming out? Yeah, we're still a long way off. There's still going to be other Total War. Well, I think what they're announcing at the Game Awards is probably coming. I think that's that's what they said, the next Total War. So I think that will definitely be coming before Medieval 3. This is then still beyond that, and obviously other stuff they announced. Warhammer 3 End Times, Lords of the End Times, what we're going to go into and discuss next. That is supposedly coming out next year, because right now, again, Warhammer 3 is the only active game that they have released and generating the revenue. So yeah, that makes sense. So that's obviously coming out first with more stuff there. But yeah, what do you think? Medieval 3? I'm excited for it. I can't lie. I'm excited for Medieval 3. It's a setting. It's a period that I absolutely love. And again, Medieval 1, Medieval 2 hold a special place in my heart for getting me really invested in the series. But Medieval 3 has to have those games at its core and then built upon, not something else and then only going back for a few aspects. So let's see what they announce as they develop it. And I will certainly, I think what I'd really like to do is follow along the development journey and make reactionary content as and when they announce more things, sharing my thoughts about it. So yeah, hopefully you'll enjoy the journey with that as well. Right, Warhammer 3, Lords of the End Times. So back on the fantasy choo-choo train. I mean, they've been teasing this for a little while, End Times, and can't say I'm surprised. In fact, here's the trailer.
does not serve. Citra rules. So be it. I am death incarnate. This world will kneel.
Okay, so there we have it. The Lords of the End Times. Nagash is back, or he's coming back. I don't know a huge amount about the End Times apart from a few broad strokes of, oh my god, this happened, and that happened, and the lizard men all went into space. So, first of all, let me know your favorite thing from the End Times. I would say the least favorite thing from the End Times is probably the End Times itself and how it all ended. But from my understanding of this, and the way CA are framing it, Lords of the End Times should allow us, the players, to rewrite that ending, to actually have the ending that we wanted rather than the one Games Workshop gave us. So I think that is actually a brilliant way to present the End Times content. And also with it being in the, the ultimate Immortal Empire sandbox that campaign is, it makes sense that you should be able to change the outcome. Even though they've said this is obviously a much more narrative-driven, narrative-focused experience, it's got different ways that you can influence the outcomes, and you can play to different objectives, to try and help change and determine the ending point of the End Times. I assume there will be a canon path that you can go along, and everything blows up. But it'll be interesting to see what the other options are that you can try and pursue to reshape or save the world. So, the End Times are nigh, but Total War Warhammer saga is far from over. It's hard to believe that the Warhammer series is about to hit its 10-year milestone. I mean, that does, I feel... Thanks for the aging there, CA. And what better way to celebrate than with something truly apocalyptic? In summer 2026, the Lords of the End Times storm into the Immortal Empires campaign, bringing with them 4 brand new legendary lords from different races alongside a deadly host of new units, lore-inspired objectives, and sandbox campaigns. Leading the charge is none other than Nagash, the great necromancer himself, long whispered about in the dark corners of the lore. He returns with one goal, to drown the world in undeath. He'll be joined by a motley crew of horrors, including the mighty Blood Dragon legendary hero, Walarch Harkon, alongside Tomb Heralds, Morghast Archai, and the Kemric Titan, and more. But that's not all. These new legendary lords arrive alongside the free End Times update. So you'll get End Times as a free update anyway, whether you buy Lords of the End Times. That's cool. A transformative new addition to the Immortal Empires inspired by pivotal chapters from the lore. Expect a revamped campaign experience with cataclysmic events, apocalyptic scenarios, and all new campaign customization options. Good. We've been saying for a long time what they've started doing with customization options for the campaign is good, but we want more. And to crown this update, a new legendary lord will rise, ready to leave their mark on the cataclysm to come. So that sounds like this update, a free new legendary lord. Nice. There's more to come though, and we'll share additional details as development moves forward into the new year. Finally, we're in the early stages of developing our End Times content. What we've shared represents our current vision, but it may evolve as development continues, as always with the goal of delivering the best possible experience to all of you. I mean, honestly, summer 2026 sounds great. If they're saying that we're in the early stages of it, I mean, we're 6 months out, basically. Summer 2026. 6 to 8 months out if they really want to stretch it towards the end of it. Right now, CA has been working on a DLC release schedule of 1 DLC a year. This one sounds absolutely massive. It's 4 lords, plus obviously probably the biggest free update we've yet seen, and another legendary lord included in that. All these scenarios, all these new mechanics sound absolutely massive. I mean, it did. I thought in the showcase it sounded like, and I might be completely wrong here, but it sounded like they were talking about this being Lords of the End Times almost being like a standalone bit of content because they've now separated Immortal Empires as well from Warhammer 3, meaning players of Warhammer 1 and 2, if you don't own Warhammer 3, can still dive straight into Immortal Empires. You'll just be diving in with whichever legendary lords you've got from the games that you own and the DLCs that you own. To me, it sounded like this would almost be its own standalone thing as well. So you could just buy Lords of the End Times and go straight into Immortal Empires without owning Warhammer 3, 2, or 1. And I guess that makes sense with how they're currently splitting it all up, because they want everyone, basically, that buys any of the Warhammer trilogy or extended DLCs to be able to dive straight into the ultimate sandbox campaign that is Immortal Empires. So it would make sense that if you just pick this up, it almost acts as its own standalone thing, not requiring Warhammer 3 itself. So we'll wait and see if there's clarification on that. I mean, I know there's a bit of an FAQ on this as well, so that may well be answered down there. So we will see. There's the campaign flyover, which I probably would have thrown up actually while I've been talking over this stuff anyway. But yeah, that's what we know from that. Who are you most excited to see from the End Times? Those of you that are super into the lore, what's your favorite bit of lore? What like key event would you love to change? All of it. What bit would you like to change? What other legendary lords are you hoping to see? Obviously, they've announced Nagash, but there's 3 others coming as part of the DLC and the free one as well. I assume that's Neferata is one of those because they've hinted at her in the past. Suffice to say, at this point, obviously, yes, 100% I will be doing a Nagash campaign, and I'll probably launch with two campaigns to start with. A Nagash campaign where I seek to turn everything dead so that he can become Lord of Undeath. That's his whole thing, right? He wants to become the 5th Chaos God, the Chaos God of, is it Undeath or Chaos God of Death itself? Broadly, same thing. But he can't be the god of undeath or undead or of the dead if there are living. So he wants to kill everyone first, and then he can be their undead god. That's broadly my understanding of it. But yeah, they also mentioned that the Mortarchs, his lieutenants, would be coming to him, and you'd be able to steal them from other factions. I wonder if that's literally you steal them and you don't confederate with their faction, but you literally steal them away and then somebody else takes over their faction, or maybe they just implode. That'd be kind of interesting. See how you pull those different legendary lords from different factions all to you. That'd be great. So yeah, obviously it's going to be, I assume, coming with a fairly massive update to undead factions themselves. I actually really want more Vampire Coast content. I really love their, who doesn't love undead vampire pirates? I thought that was probably one of the best DLCs that they've done, actually. And I really enjoyed my Nautilus campaign as well. So yeah, more Vampire Coast stuff would be fun as part of that, perhaps. Then finally, is it finally? Yes, pretty much. A new game engine was also announced, Warcore. Now, up until this point, every Total War game, from my understanding, since 2009 has been built on broadly the same foundational bit of code, which was actually called, or at least from my understanding, from when I've spoken to people at Creative Assembly in the past, I mean, it has been years since I've had a good chat with them and stuff like that, but they internally, I believe, called that engine TW3 because it was the third Total War engine, essentially. The first one was Shogun 1, Medieval 1. The second engine that they had was Rome 1 and Medieval 2. And the third iteration of the engine, TW3, was Empire onwards, because everything essentially, including Warhammer, has been built from that original 2009 framework, which is why I think even in Warhammer 1 and 2, until CA scrubbed it, there were some entries that linked to Empire Total War still in their code base. And, we've talked about the spaghetti code and the tech debt and the need for a new engine, or somehow a way of them cleansing the current engine and removing all that tech debt. And I think, this also, I think, potentially highlights why Medieval 3 is only now in pre-production, is that they had to get a new engine made first before they could then start building games on it. So that already probably adds 3 or 4 years to just sort out the new engine. Maybe less. I don't know. I don't make engines, but broadly, to me, it makes sense if they'd have to spend a fair amount of time, first of all, getting the new code base done, the updated, improved, brand new engine, and then they can start building stuff on top of it. So I assume Warcore is powering Medieval 3, and I assume it's also powering whatever else that they're announcing at the Game Awards. I reckon it's 40k. That's my guess. So, I mean, some people say TW3, don't you mean Warscape? So that was a miscommunication that got floated around the community quite a while. Warscape has always been a part of the Total War or TW3 engine, but my understanding was that Warscape was the graphics renderer part of the engine. It was a modular engine. That's how they've been able to essentially keep the same core code base, but still make some improvements over the years, because they'd literally take out elements, modules of the engine, update it, improve it, and slot it back in, basically. So Warscape was never the entire engine, but it was the graphics processing engine. But I think that's because that was the only time we ever got a title for part of the engine. People latched onto that and were like, oh, it's the Warscape engine. But anyway, we now have a name for the brand new engine, Warcore, which I wonder if, I don't know what the other elements of the engine were called. Warscape. Maybe they just people thought it was called Warscape. Let's go with that and call this one the core central overall engine, Warcore. That makes sense to me. So yeah, we have the Warcore game engine. Every new era of Total War starts with the right foundations. Our core technology team, that meant creating a new evolution of our game engine, and we're calling it Warcore. When we looked at the lineup of future Total War titles, it was clear that our existing technology needed to level up, and Warcore is the result. It's the most advanced engine foundation in the franchise's history, empowering our developers with powerful tools to make gameplay more immersive, dynamic, and responsive than ever before. But it's important to highlight that this isn't a one-time upgrade. Our talented team have designed it with a long-term vision, so that whilst it will be in its infancy at the outset, the intent is for it to evolve over time and unlock groundbreaking new capabilities that ensure Total War stays at the cutting edge of strategy gaming for years to come. So again, basically saying it's going to be a modular engine. There's going to be things that can be added to it, improved, chopped and changed out of it, without having to rewrite that core foundation. And again, Empire Total War was the engine that came alongside that was the engine that launched the last 15 years, last 15 years or so of Total War games on it. This Warcore engine is looking to probably do the same, if not more, into the future. And for the first time in franchise history, Warcore opens the door to future Total War titles launch on PlayStation and Xbox, bringing the scale, depth, and tactical mastery of Total War to a new generation of commanders. We understand that some of you will have concerns about how we approach console development, and that's completely natural. Rest assured, PC remains at the very core of a design ethos, as it has done for the past 25 years. Throughout this journey, we've been working hand in hand with experienced Total War players to ensure that what we develop continues to deliver the same immersive, authentic, and tactically rich experiences that you've come to expect from the franchise. I mean, if anything, I'd hope that you not only continue the same immersive, authentic, and tactically rich experiences, but actually even more. That's what we've said. There isn't enough depth in places. They need to evolve that by adding in more systems and features and bringing back mechanics from previous titles that did that. But yeah, consoles. I know the knee-jerk response to this is going to be, they're going to dumb down the game. They're going to simplify it even further. It's not going to be a strategy anymore. It's just going to be a click, done, automatically send troops into battle. I am actually going to be a bit more optimistic than that. I actually think, and they've said from their statement there, I don't think they're that stupid to completely alienate their core and only previously product market of PC gamers by going, we're going to expand out to console gamers as well. And to do that, we're going to dumb down, we're going to, worsen your core experience. The core players that have supported us all the way through, that have always been our customers, we're going to make that worse just so that we can branch out a bit more. I don't think they're that stupid, because if they do that, the PC side of it is just gone. And I don't see them pivoting away completely from it. Broadly, your latest gen Xbox and PS5 are mid-tier PCs. I don't think realistically there is much really for them to need to scale back that they don't already do across different tiers of PCs. Because you can have PCs, lower tier PCs, that are like £500 or £600, $600-700, playing on much smaller unit scale, reduced graphics, compared to a £3,000, $4,000 PC that's running everything at 4K, ultra settings, massive unit sizes. That's the main scaling that they do for different hardware. And that broadly is all I would actually expect them to do for console as well, alongside a redone UI for consoles. But that shouldn't have any impact if they design it and develop it correctly on PC players. Our UI should remain the same that we know. It would just be that the console UI is completely different. And I would say an example of this is look at Crusader Kings 3 on PC and on console. The console UI design is completely different to the PC UI. You have like lots of shortcuts and menus to work with a controller control scheme. Lots of things have been moved around or made bigger and clearer because there's a lot of text in that game. I would expect them to do exactly the same thing, and there broadly be two differences between the PC version and a console version. And none of that, in my mind, should affect any of the core or any of the mechanics of the game itself, because the only differences should be the UI design and the control scheme for console and the kind of default scaling and graphic settings, essentially. It'll probably be, I mean, I don't know what they're aiming for. Again, we don't know how more optimization comes with this new Warcore engine, but I don't really, as I said, I don't think they're that stupid to go like, oh, right, yeah, on console, it's not going to have in-depth, diplomacy or anything like that, and we're going to then go, we're just not going to bother in-depth diplomacy for PC either, because why should we? I don't think they're going to change the mechanics. If a game like Crusader Kings 3 can keep all of its mechanics and exist on console, then there is no reason why Total War can follow the same thing, because it doesn't have that many mechanics. It doesn't have anywhere near as many mechanics as CK3 on the campaign side. So I don't know, maybe I'm just full of hopium on it, but I don't right now think it is potentially as big an issue as people are worrying about. Obviously, time will tell when we start seeing stuff. And a lot of this is there is nothing tangible to really see supporting any of this right now. But I just can't actually see it being that much of a problem. At least right now from the offset of what they are saying they're trying to achieve. Maybe I'll be completely wrong, and I'll be eating my words going, yeah, no, they are idiots, and they have done the thing that we hoped they wouldn't do. They have ruined the PC experience for the sake of branching out on console. I hope they don't do that, though. I don't think they're really that stupid, because they will maximize their profits if they still make a great PC experience and then deliver that out to consoles as well. And ultimately, that's what they're there to do. The primary thing is to make money as a company. And they'll make the most money if they deliver a great PC experience that also then translates with a few adjustments exclusively for the console version, not at the cost of the PC experience. That's my hope on it anyway. Obviously, yeah, the final bit on the blog post is that a revolutionary new chapter on December 11th at the Game Awards. They'll be announcing the next Total War game, which, again, rumors and speculation. I've said it already like several times in this. I think it's going to be Total War 40k. Let me know what you think it's going to be. There's all the dates where you can go and tune into it. I will be discussing what they announce at the Game Awards on the 12th of December over on my Discord around about 2 p.m. GMT, and we'll probably stream it as well. So feel free to jump in and join in on that. I'm just going to go through this FAQ section because this may well answer some of the questions that we've already had. Although I'll probably skip over some of the stuff like release date, early development for Medieval 3. Yeah. How often will we be communicating? Every quarterly updates. Okay, I mean, that's not... I was kind of hoping maybe like monthly, to be honest, but I'm hoping that maybe that will get quicker and more consistent with updates, to be honest, about it, as they have more to share with us. All of it really depends on how early they truly are in its development and how quickly things come along. What features, map details, or other gameplay units can you share at this point? We're not ready to share anything specific. Yeah. There is an introductory blog post, though, that you can click here. Medieval 3 Welcome. I will click it. And it does add in some additional stuff from the game director. And they talk about some of the settings that they'd like to do and go into. I'll have a link to that. I'm not going to go through it today. But that does seem like quite an interesting little bit of extra content and detail there, just to give you an idea from a design perspective of where they want to go with it. Will sieges feature in this game? Yes. But we see them as an essential component of Medieval War. What I would actually really like to know early on is, what does the team that's working on Medieval 3 believe the core historical pillars are for a Total War game that they are working towards? Because I often think, this is being shown to be true as they have released new games over the years, I do think that a big reason why there's quite a bit of disconnect between community expectations and what CA put out and develop is that I believe that CA actually inherently have a fairly different set of core design pillars that they believe are vital to historical Total Wars versus what the community think they are. And I think that's where we see different priorities shift and change, and where they don't get it right. Will this game use the new Warcore engine? Yes, this will be the first historical Total War game built from the Warcore engine. And I do say this will be the first historical Total War game, which makes me believe that the next one, 40k, whatever it's going to be, that's announced on the 11th, is also on it. I hope it would be as well. But I don't know, maybe that just missed it. But that would be silly because, you know, if we go down the speculation rabbit hole, I can't see 40k not being a game similar to the Warhammer trilogy in that it will have loads of DLC, it will have loads of updates over a decade, if not longer. So it would make sense that that would also be built on the latest bit of tech that they have. And again, this engine has probably been being worked on for quite some time. Hopefully that's what they've been developing this next game on as well, alongside Medieval 3. How can I keep up to date on development progress? Specific update, joining community hub. Yeah, that's fine. Or tuning into to the bearded wonder that is Lionheart. Will this game have a blood pack? No. We want to immerse you in an authentic recreation of the Middle Ages, so blood will play a key role in making the period feel appropriately authentic. Will this game have a blood pack? No. We want to immerse you in an authentic recreation of the Middle Ages, so blood will play a key role in making the period feel brilliant. So that means that they'll have blood baked in from the start? We're doing away with blood packs? Finally. Will the game have blood pack? No. We want to immerse you in an authentic recreation of the Middle Ages, so blood will play a key role. I'm making sure I'm reading this right. Will play a key role in making the period feel appropriately authentic. So no blood pack, but there will be blood. The only way I can see them doing that is if they are increasing their age rating, because that is apparently their only blocker or reasoning for why they sell it separately. In the past, we'll see. End Times. Will the End Times be the end for Total War Warhammer? We have more content planned for after the Lord of the End Times releases. So yeah, they've said that, and they said in the showcase, they want to keep making Total War Warhammer content as long as there are people are interested in more content for it. And I guess also that gives them more time to work on the next Total War game and Medieval 3, depending on when those are spaced to be released. I mean, I don't expect, you know, the next Total War game, 40k, whatever it is, to come out before 2027. Maybe even, I don't know if it will come out a bit later than that, 2028. I guess it also depends how far away Medieval 3 is. We've just got no idea really of the timescales until they start being able to share that kind of information. We just really don't know. And obviously we want them to not release them too soon. We'd rather them take a bit longer to get them right. But yeah, it's really hard to try and work out any kind of scheduling. But I think, you know, the Warhammer 3 stuff is going to still keep on coming out in parallel alongside those well into the future. Are you replicating the End Time story? Like many of our past releases, we're taking inspiration from the lore rather than directly translating it. This series has always been about creating a fantasy sandbox that feels uniquely yours, and we want to give you the tools to shape your own story amongst the apocalypse. So that's, yeah, they touched on it a bit in the showcase directly as well, but it's about letting you interact with the events of the End Times and also potentially shaping your own ending, which I think is a perfect way to appeal to old world fans that weren't happy with how Games Workshop officially ended the End Times. So you can kind of try and change it, which would be pretty cool. Who are the other Legendary Lords? As we approach next summer's release, we'll start revealing the other famous and infamous Legendary Lords who will join the gash within the pack. Okay, so not right now. Do you need to own... Yeah, so here we go. Do you need to own Total War Warhammer 1, 2, or 3 to play? No, you can simply purchase one of the 4 new Legendary Lords and you'll be ready. So you'll literally be able to purchase just one of them. It sounds like they're going to split them off into their own separate Lord packs, as they have been doing for quite some time now. And with that DLC, it'll be a standalone expansion, essentially, or a standalone Immortal Empires experience with just that. You'll only have that one Lord to play as, though. If you didn't own any other Total War Warhammer stuff and you just bought, say, Nagash from the Lords of the End Time pack, you would just have him to play as, and whatever the free Legendary Lord is as well, I guess. So yeah, interesting. So it will all just be about, you'll just buy the other games and DLCs for who you want to play as. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good way of getting people straight in and playing. Probably I would have thought, and you know, depending on this, it's not going to be as priced as a full price game, but I imagine it's going to be a bit more expensive than previous DLCs have been as a standalone pack, if you get the full pack at least. But that's still going to be a great way to get straight into the Immortal Empires experience at potentially a fraction of the cost that it would be to buy, say, Warhammer 3 itself. When will we hear more? We'll return with more information about the content in spring 2020, so after the Christmas break. What are cataclysmic events? Cataclysmic events or devastation is what we're using to describe the changes to the campaign map seen during the showcase. We have plans for multiple ways to interact with the campaign map and allow you to devastate the land. Okay. Warcore. Will all future projects use Warcore? All major future releases will use the new Warcore engine, but certain projects, such as Total Warhammer 3, will continue to use the current engine. Yeah, it makes sense because, that one is going to be probably the last on the current one, right? Why didn't you upgrade the engine sooner? Total War runs on a custom engine, so upgrades are very resource intensive, involving a major redevelopment and testing. Instead of rushing, we invested time to ensure the upgrade would deliver meaningful improvements without disrupting our teams and projects. Why do you continue to use a proprietary engine? We continue to use a proprietary engine because it is tailored to the unique needs of Total War. It gives us full control over features, performance, and scalability, allowing us to create a complex systems that define the series. I mean, obviously there are many other engines out there, but I think the reason, again, probably why they stick with their own one is that there isn't an alternative that does everything the current one can do. There's ones that can do certain elements better in some ways or another, but there probably isn't one that can do everything in one big package like their own proprietary tech. So that does make sense. Will future games perform better? The new engine brings richer visuals and more dynamic gameplay systems, delivering notable improvements while preserving the classic Total War style that fans know and love. I mean, I hope we get a lot of technical improvements. I'd like to see stuff like DLSS upscaling and things like that, I would be surprised if it doesn't include stuff like that, especially if they're looking to branch out onto console systems. Having that option in there should give them, some significant performance gains, with fairly minimal visual impact, which should work quite well for console systems as well. And then some information about the Game Awards. Again, the link to this will be in the description. But that's where I'm going to wrap up my thoughts on this so far. I mean, I think this broadly was pretty decent. I think it would have been nice to have found out in the showcase what the we found out what the next historical was, what the next Total War would have been. But obviously they were given a slot at the Game Awards, and that does make sense that they would look to include their announcement there because it's probably one of the biggest gaming events of the year. So let's hope whatever it is that they announce, it is worth the wait, the little bit of extra wait, and it is worth the hype that they are drumming up for it. Place your bets down below in the comments. Let me know if you had any questions, thoughts, or stuff you want to add from your own impressions. Are you happy with it? You're not happy with it? I think it could have been better, but broadly, I'm pretty excited for Medieval 3. Lords of the End Times sounds great. I'm actually probably of all of. I mean, it's tough because Medieval 3 I'm most excited about, but I'll say Medieval 3, then Warcore. I'd love to know more about the engine, kind of tech out geeky on that. And then Lords of the End Times. But yeah, I am excited that at least in the future we have that new foundation, we have that new engine. Let's just hope it doesn't introduce more problems to start with. But I think this is the right step for them to go into the future. But now they've got to pull it all off and they've got to get it right. Because if they don't, unfortunately, it doesn't matter what they announce. They will be really try. It will not be it's either the rebirth of historical Total War or its end, I think is pretty much what this will do. So this needs to be solid. So until the next one, where I've been watching, hope you've enjoyed. Take care and ciao for now.